Well, hey, Eric, happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Hey, thanks for spending a few minutes with us. Talk about team building activities. Can you introduce yourself to us, please?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Great to be back here again with you, Corey. My name is Eric Bates. I'm the general manager at the Wingspread Retreat and Executive Conference Center. It's part of the Johnson Foundation's campus out here in Wind Point, Wisconsin, just north of Racine.
Fantastic. Guys are doing some fantastic work there. Always impressed from so many different levels. Love the grounds team. You have a fantastic team there. Have heard some amazing things in terms of some team building activities. So I was hoping you could share some of these proven strategies with us. What would be one of your first things that's really working for you guys now?
Right. You tipped off to a very important part of convening, right? We've learned a long time ago that you can't just put people in a room, slap a name tag on them and tell them to, share their favorite color. That doesn't really unite people like I think we need to have these days, right? We really need to build some connection. And even back in our offices and in our nonprofits and on our boards, anywhere where we have our folks serving, the ability to collaborate and communicate, to compromise, to overcome challenges together, all that takes teamwork. And sometimes you just need to exercise that teamwork among your own associates. And so when we have folks out here for conferences, what better time to take advantage of a little bit of team working activity? So as you mentioned, there are three sort of buckets that we consider team buildings to fall in. And they aren't always competitive, right? They can be inspiring and motivating. They can take different forms. One of my favorite ones, we just actually did it this week, is a philanthropic team building. What we did in this particular case, we've done several of these, just depending on what the client would like to do, is we had a group of 40 folks come join us in our kitchen at Wingspread, learn to make some nice marinara sauces and some meatballs from scratch. And then we assembled them in two big assembly lines. We had them assemble lasagnas, some apple crisp using some apples from our orchard here this fall, and some sheets of, or some pans rather, of garlic bread. Packaged all those up. The chef par baked them, and then we froze them and sent them off to a shelter here in town so they can benefit folks for weeks. I mean, this is more food than they can use one particular night, and they just keep it in the freezer and pull it out when they need it. And I think the thing about the philanthropic team buildings that resonates so well is that even after people leave their meeting, they're still talking about what they did for someone else. Even people they don't know. And in this particular case, we have a great relationship with this particular shelter. And the executive director of the shelter came out, gave a little speech to the team about what these sorts of donations mean to them and their ability to function and serve others. And so it really made the team feel great about what they were doing. And they got to work together and really do something fun and beneficial for other people, which we always find is a great start of meeting.
That's fantastic. That's amazing. I love that. Wonderful.
Yep. And there are lots of those, but aside from philanthropic things like that, there's sort of the competitive and educational ones, right? Where we can maybe teach something and give them a little bit of fun competition, right?
But one of
my favorite. What's that?
Everybody loves a little friendly competition, right?
We love it, right?
Bragging rights.
Sparked a little, right? Right. And as long as it's kind of friendly competition and you tee it up that way, I think everybody enjoys it, right? So one of the favorite ones that we like is called the Egg Drop Challenge. And a lot of teams have done this in different forms, one form or another, where we essentially put them into small groups, separate them into different rooms, give them a raw egg, some drinking straws, and some masking tape, and ask them to create a contraption that they can build around this egg, so that when we drop it from a height of about 30 feet, it won't break.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, so the teams have to kind of get together and figure out, well, how could they cushion this egg so it won't break? And they only have a limited amount. They have 3 feet of tape and I think 12 straws or something like that. So they don't have infinite resources.
Wow.
They've got to come up with their contraption and how would that work? So that's always a fun sort of a team building exercise, because there's always someone that tends to have a little bit more engineering skill and somebody else that thinks they know, right, how to do it. But it's also a lesson delivery as well, because we try to teach them a little bit about what that shape would look like. A successful shape looks a little bit more like a lunar lander. It's almost triangular. so that when it bounces on one of the corners and it cushions the edge.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't learn that till later. And the other thing we teach them in that particular exercise is a little bit about terminal velocity and what terminal velocity is. Just a fun little story about that is we teach them about dropping a mouse off a skyscraper. And we say, if you drop a mouse off a skyscraper, what do you think is going to happen when it hits the sidewalk? And everybody always says, oh, it'll splatter, 3 feet, right? But it doesn't. And the reason it doesn't, most of the times it can scurry away. And the reason it doesn't is because it reaches a terminal velocity. And if an object reaches its terminal velocity, it stops falling faster. It won't go any faster. And essentially, if the weight of the object and the shape of the object is just right, it can land and scurry away.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fun to show them these sorts of things because they don't believe it and they have to Google it and look it up. But it's the same concept that we're trying to teach them in the egg drop challenge about terminal velocity, about cushioning a fall. It's how airbags work and sensors in cars and things like that. So not only is it team building and it's competitive, but it's also educational. So we like those a lot.
I love that. And I'm sure because when you get people involved versus you're talking at them and you having them involved, problem solving, and they get these aha moments rather than going through that exercise. So I love that. That's amazing.
And without revealing one of our dirty little secrets, which is, the little trick we sometimes will play on them. We'll give them a challenge like this and we'll assign them roles with Post-it notes, and we'll tell everybody in advance, each of you is going to get a role. One of you is going to be a marketing person. One of you is going to be a product developer. One of you is going to be a research analyst. One of you is going to be the boss. And then we hand these roles out on these Post-it notes. And we ask them not to share with each other what their role is. Only the trick that we play on them is that every one of the Post-it notes says you're the boss, right? So everybody in the group thinks they're the boss. And the dynamic that happens in your team is really fascinating because without telling anyone else you're the boss, you're trying to act like the boss.
Right.
But everybody's trying to do that. So how does your team react to that? Do your leaders try and lead through a kind of a soft coaxing approach, or do they try and be heavy-handed and demand that they get the respect that they deserve as a leader? It's very telling about how your leaders handle people who don't want a boss or think that they are the boss. So when everyone's thinking they're the boss, how do they handle each other? Now you can't let that play on too long.
I can see why.
A good 10 minutes or so, and let them struggle with each other and trying to figure out why these other people aren't letting me be the boss. It's because they think they're the boss. So they can be fun, they can be a little deviant, but they can also be really, really telling for the planner or for the company or for the group as a whole. Like, how do we deal with adversity like that when everybody's coming at us thinking that they know best and we think we know best? How do we handle that? And that's a great team building. One of my favorite tricks to play.
So when do you let the cat out of the bag? When it gets contentious, or do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Usually when it gets contentious, when usually you can feel the tension building and they're about ready to go at each other. You let them in on the secret that, well, guess what? Everybody reveal your roles, and so they reveal their roles, and they all crack up. And they realize what they've done. Then and instantly they realize what that exercise was all about. How to be a leader without being forceful as a leader. How do you get people to follow you even when everyone else thinks they're the boss? So it's really a fun exercise.
That's great. I love that. I've never heard that before. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's a neat little trick. And then, there's this third sort of bucket that we like to put things, and that's a bonding one. So outside of the educational one and competitive and philanthropic, we kind of go into this bonding experience where we really want them to grow together. This isn't something that they will be competitive about, but they just have fun with it. One great one is to do cooking lessons. We do out here at Wingspread, we have a big outdoor fire pit, and we'll teach them to cook over fire. There are all kinds of different techniques for cooking over a wood fire, from the seasonings and rubs that we teach them how to make to how to sear, how to slow roast, all of those things over an open fire. That's an entirely different skill, and we put them into teams to teach them how to do this with one of our chefs. That's a fun one as well. There's another one, this borderlines on competitive, educational, and bonding, and it's called the Palette Challenge. We essentially break everyone up into teams and then give them each team 7 or 8 different common everyday items to taste while blindfolded. And they'll all taste them at the same time, and then they'll write on their flip chart what they think they just tasted. So it might be an almond, it might be a mint leaf, it might be a sprig of rosemary, whatever it is, it might be a raspberry, whatever it is. It's amazing how when you take that sense of sight out, how it's much more difficult to taste or to identify what an item might be. And so the teams compete by trying to figure out who's got the most of these items right. And that's an awful lot of fun. The key to that one, though, is to make sure people understand you're not going to give them anything that's dangerous or unsavory, or you're not trying to be funny or tricky. These are common things that they're all being asked to taste, and it's an awful lot of fun and non-competitive. It's just kind of fun.
Yeah. Oh, that's.
But the aim of all of these is really just to build trust, and some of them, like I said, incorporate learning. Some of them are participatory. Some of them are competitive, but they're all fun, and some of them can be done in as little as 10 minutes, and some of them take us 45 minutes to an hour or longer. But it's a great way to start a meeting, to end a meeting. You can incorporate team building, you'll definitely come back with a stronger team.
That's fantastic. Hey, those are three plus very strong on tips on team building. I really appreciate you sharing those with us, Eric. Can't wait to have you again next time. Thanks for spending some time with us on Friday.
Happy to do it. So great to be here. Enjoy your weekend. We're going to have a great fall weekend here in Wisconsin, so we're going to go do some tree peeping.
Oh, nice. Hey, have a good man. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much, Corey. Great to be with you.